Good day. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking further and deeper into Node.js URL module, right? Whenever you come to your browser and you come here, everything written here is called your URL, and the full meaning of URL is Universal Resource Locator, right? So whenever you write www.google.com, facebook.com/this/that, all of that is called URL. This is your URL here. So we're going to go back to our page and then let's start working with URL. For us to work with URL, we need to require the URL module, and the URL module is also an inbuilt module that comes with Node.js. So I'm going to go ahead and just require it here. I'll save our URL, store it in a variable called URL, goes to require, then the module is also called URL, so I'll say URL here. Okay, so now let's get started. The first thing I want to do is create a variable where I'll store my URL, right? So remember I said you can always get your URL using rec.url. So let me go ahead and store my variable inside this. Or for now, let me create a custom URL so that we can use it for example purposes. So I'll just save I'll call it address. Then let's just create a custom URL. I'll just say the URL is let's call it our localhost port 8080. Let me give it HTTP. Remember that URL is a string, so we store it inside quotation mark. And then let me give it some data. Let's say month equal to September and year equal to 2022, right? So this is our custom URL that we'll be using for example purposes. But remember, if you want to actually get the URL that the person typed, you can simply come and write rec.url here, and it will and it will get the URL that the person typed. But for the purpose of this example, we'll be using this custom URL. So the next thing I want to do now, right, is that I want to parse my URL so that I can break it into different parts. In order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and write I'll store my parsed URL inside a variable called q, and then I'll just say url.parse. This URL here I'm using is this URL here, and then I'll put in my URL, which I've stored inside a variable called address here, ADR, and then I'll give it the value of true. So that being done, now I can go ahead and just view some things. For example, let me go ahead and just comment this out for now, and let's work strictly with URL for now. I can try to write to my console and say console.log. This URL has certain properties, right? I can say console.log q.host. Then let me go ahead and save that, rerun my terminal. and as you can see, this is what it gave me for q.host. It's giving me, so this is your host here. What is written here is your host, and what is written here is stored in your host. Remember I said whenever you pass your URL, you are essentially breaking it into different parts. So now my host stores the actual base URL. For example, if you go to a website like facebook.com/this/that/dish/this, the base URL is facebook.com. So, and that is stored inside this property called host. And then there's another property again called path name. So let me go ahead and write that one to the console so that you can see path name. I save that and I come down here again and I rerun my node, and as you can see, there's actually nothing there as my path name. So let me go ahead and add a path name. I'll just call it let's say default. Let's assume it's a HTML file, right? I'll save that, come here again, refresh, and as you can see, now it has given my path name as default.html. It means that it stores whatever is after your slash up to your extension and puts it in your path name, right? And then the last thing we want to print out is what we call our search. So I'm going to save that, come down here, rerun my node, and as you can see, it is storing all this data inside my search. So basically what I have done right now is that I have broken down my URL into 3 different parts, right? The first part is my q.host, and q.host stores this. The next part was my q.pathname, and my q.pathname stored this part inside, and then my q.search stored all this data. But as you can see in this data, I have month equals to September, I have year equals to 2022. What if I want to only get the month in this data and I don't care about the year? It means that I need to find a way to break down this data into its individual parts, right? Into both month equals to September and year equals to 2022. So to do that, I'm going to use what we call query. There is another property called query, right? Query will help me turn my search into an object and store it inside an object class. So let's go ahead and do that so that you'll see. Let me go ahead and clean all this for now, and then I'll say q data equal to q.query. Now in order for me to access each of these data, now I'll now say q.query here. I can now say something like q data dot month. And remember, this is our month here. So let me go ahead and just print that to my console using console.log so that you see it. I save that, and then I come here, and as you can see, it has printed out September. If I change this from month, which is here, to year, save that, come here, I run it, and as you can see, it has printed out 2022. So basically, this is how you can work with your URL module. This is how you use your Node.js URL module to carry a URL or get a URL and then do different things with it.